Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the brand new Spyderco Watu. Thank you very, very much to Southern Edge Knife Works for getting me one of these very quickly. Go to southernedgeknifeworks.com, use the code SDSEK at checkout, get 15% off and free shipping. Pretty good deal because this is a fairly expensive knife, which we'll get to in just a moment. I also do want to say I am doing this a little bit different than I usually do. There is a disassembly at the end of this. If you want to skip ahead to that, if you've already seen enough reviews or you just are going back to reference how to take yours apart, maybe you already have one, the timestamp will be down below. It does make for a fairly long video, so I completely understand if you skip the end or skip the beginning and just want to watch the review or just want to watch this assembly. I'm going to be doing a few more of those. I'm not going to do it on every single knife, but I am going to do it on some of them. So let's get going. This knife, the Watu, it is part of the Ethnic series. It's a Sal Glesser design. It is based off from the Shockway, basically a knife that they made previously that has been discontinued for quite a while now. This is smaller than the Shockway was. The Shockway was named after a tribe in Central and Southern Africa. This is no different. It still references that same region. And a very, very cool thing about this, which I haven't seen mentioned before, and I didn't know it either, a portion of the proceeds of this go to the, make sure I have this charity name right, the Watu to Keep a Child Alive. It's an organization that helps kids that are diagnosed with HIV and AIDS, also in Central and Southern Africa. So amazing. Very, very cool. So not only are you getting an awesome knife, which you'll see as it goes on, I love it, you're also going to be giving to a good cause, which that is great. I believe they do the same thing with the Stage 5 as well, to another charity. But for your $182, which isn't horrible, I will get more to that in the conclusion. I don't think that's too bad because you're getting 20 CV, a steel that Spyderco is just starting to use a little bit more. Happy to see it on this knife. And, you know, the usual Tai Chung quality. You do also, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you feel, get the Peel Ply G10 carbon fiber. It's a carbon fiber G10 with a carbon fiber laminate and the Peel Ply texture on it. It's a bit different than the others. You'll see that momentarily. It's a bit shinier. It's more like the Chaparral than it is some of the other ones. I don't really have a huge problem with it. I've always kind of liked it. I did swap it out on one of my Tai Chung Spydercos, but it's not usually a priority for me. And it is just, I think, a very cool looking design. It's very angular. Some people might not like it. I do. You have this kind of coffin-shaped handle. That's what Spyderco calls them themselves. This sort of, you're going to call that a modified Warncliffe blade shape. I really do like it a whole lot. Very thin behind the edge. You're looking at like 17 thousandths behind the edge. Not bad at all. Thin blade stock, slicing machine. Very well made. Right hand, left hand wire, deep carry pocket clip. I like that. It's a very ambidextrous knife. It's not too hard to operate a compression lock lefty. They do make lefties in, I know the PM2 came in a lefty, but it's not really that hard. Even I can operate it left-handed. So, and I'm the most right-handed person on the face of the planet. So if I can pull it off, you can probably pull it off. Now, let's do some specs and some size comparisons. We have an overall length of 7.4 inches, blade length of 3¼ inches, blade thickness, as I said, very thin, 0.10 inch blade stock. Handle thickness also very thin at 0.41 inches and a weight of dead on 3 ounces. And they do get the golf clap because that is exactly what this one weighed. Now let's do some size comparisons. We'll start with our usual Spyderco sandwich, then our usual Benchmades, and then I'm going to pull out a whole bunch of other Tai Chung Spydercos because I know a lot of people who are into Tai Chung Spydercos, that's primarily what they collect. So I'll give you an idea of where it fits in the family, sort of. We have our PM2 and the Para 3. You can see it's kind of right between them. And we will bring out your full-size Benchmade bug out. Very similar in overall length to a bug out, and get this one out of here without making a racket, and your full-size Benchmade Griptilian. Now on to the other Tai Chung stuff. We'll bring out two that, well, one that doesn't really compare much other than it's made in Tai Chung, but I bet, oh, I put the wrong knife away. Live television, everybody. We're doing it live. All right, we have the Watu back out again, as it should be. So let's bring out the Spidey Chef. You can see it's actually, I thought it would be. It's pretty similar in overall size to a Spidey Chef, maybe just a little bit shorter. And the Kapara. Again, these are both Tai Chung knives. So quite a bit shorter than the Kapara is. A knife which I really need to carry more often because, man, I love the Kapara. And next we'll bring out the Smock. Now this normally has scales more like this, but I don't have them on it at the moment. These are sharp dress knives, aftermarket micarta scales, but for size comparison, it still works. And bring out the Akuchi. Here's where you start seeing the difference. So this is more kind of what you usually get. It's not nearly as shiny texture as you're getting on the Watu, but you can see the Akuchi is just a little bit longer, obviously a much more slender knife. And then just two more. We have your Chaparral in the carbon fiber, the standard one. Pretty similar texture to this Chaparral if you have one of those. But again, you see this is the duller texture on the Sage 5. I'm not sure which one I prefer, honestly. I think the shiny looks kind of nice, but this is just a bit grippier. It's not a major difference at all by any stretch of the imagination, but you kind of get an idea there. Very similar in use and intention to the Sage 5, maybe even enough to do a battle to the death. I'm not really sure. It's a little bit larger, but very similar in overall use, and I could see debating on which one of these to carry. All right, let's talk about this knife. First of all, this blade. It is amazing. I think I've already hinted at that quite heavily. 20 CV steel, zero complaints there. Basically the same thing as M390, which everybody, acts like it's, the second coming of the Lord or something like that. Very thin behind the edge, as I said, 17 thousandths. Very sharp out of the box, very thin blade stock. This thing is it's a scalpel, laser beam, all that kind of stuff. It's great. I really do like it. Full flat grind. And the tip is a bit dainty, obviously. If there's one downside to it, it's that. Like, you're not going to want to do anything super heavy use with this. It won't be too hard to snap a tip off. But other than that, that's the only complaint that I have. And I wouldn't use this just don't use this like that. I have other knives for that, so it doesn't bother me a bit. Ergonomics, I wasn't sure how this was going to be. I thought if there's one thing I'm not going to like about this, is the ergos, because this coffin-shaped handle, I usually really don't like the butt to be, that squared off. But this fits perfectly fine. As you can see, it's long enough. I'm not interacting with that, and there's jimping up here on the blade, which they clearly mean for you to hold it even farther up. No issues. No issues at all. It's very comfortable. I can feel that wire clip, but again, wire clips, even when you can feel them, it's almost impossible to call them a hot spot, because unless it's back here, when it's up here, when you're really squeezing on it, it flexes, and I'm getting no hot spot from the back of it. So yeah, ergos are really good. If I have one little complaint, same complaint I have with a lot of the Tai Chung stuff, the edges on the top of the blade aren't too bad, but it is a very thin blade stock, so when you're really pushing on it, it does feel thin. And the Spidey hole definitely could stand to be rounded off a bit. I have a ceramic rod that I usually do that with on keepers, and this is probably going to be a keeper, so I probably will do that. Other than that, ergonomics are pretty darn good, which I'm really surprised. I do have large size gloves, but pretty skinny fingers. Normal size palm for a large glove though, so if you have a large hand, you'll probably feel about the same as me. It fits perfectly fine. If you have big giant meat hooks, then maybe you're going to start feeling, that sharpish edge on the, it's not sharp, you know what I mean, that abrupt edge on the back. But other than that, no problems. Carry, pretty good. It's not perfect. That's maybe one other flaw with it, and it's a minor flaw. It's a nice deep carry clip. I love the wire clips. People love them or hate them. I love them. It does completely disappear. You cannot see it. The weight is fine. It doesn't take up much room in the pocket at all. It's perfectly acceptable. Very skinny handle. The weight's right, all that stuff. But when you do put your hand past it, it's not as bad as like a Mannix 2 or a PM2 or something. But because of that blocky nature, it does. It carries a bit bigger than it is, but not by much, because it's so light and the handle's so thin. It's really not an issue. I'm completely nitpicking here, but yeah, it is a bit wide. Other than that, carries pretty darn good. Action on it, as you'll see, I did tear this apart and take it down. It was pretty darn good out of the box. If you want to watch the first little bit of that disassembly video, you can see what it was out of the box. Now I've got it going much better, and this is even better than it was at the end of that disassembly. It does have one other little flaw in the deployment. As you see, I keep doing that. When you activate that compression lock, it has the same problem that like the Shaman has. The tang of the blade enters the path of the compression lock. It's not nearly as bad as it is on the Shaman, and I've gotten fairly used to it. And if you time it right, it's still perfectly fine, but it's not always the best. It seems to thumb flick better than it Spidey flicks for me. But, you know, of course, it's going to go perfect that time. But I feel like I have to give a bit of wrist on the Spidey flick. I don't on the thumb flick. I think it's just a geometry thing. It's nothing that there's something wrong with it. It does have the pivot bushing, like a lot of the CQI Taichung ones do. That's nice to see. Overall, I like this a heck of a lot more than I thought I would. The you know, one little flaw with the compression lock, with the tang entering, you know, and you know, wishing that the Spidey hole was rounded off a bit more. Other than, I love this blade so much, I can more than easily forgive those two flaws. The aesthetics are going to be love them or hate them. Some people are really going to hate those holes because they hated them on the smock, but they don't bother me, and I do like the look of it when you close it, that you can see the blade in there. I think that's kind of cool. No, I don't think it's dangerous. There's no way, even my tiny little skinny pinky, I can't reach that blade. It's not going to be a problem. So if you don't like the aesthetics, you don't like the aesthetics, but you are missing out on a fantastic slicer. I've been meaning to do a, you know, top 10 best slicers that I own, and this will definitely be on the list. I would have felt really bad if I did that video last week like I planned and didn't have this, because it is outstanding. Really cool knife. And I don't think 182 bucks is a horrible price. 20 CV. You don't see that on Taichungs much, and there always is a bit of a tax for the Taichung ones, but they are very well made. I think it's worth it. And I think this one is very much worth it. And again, if you're watching this right now, I think they have 3 or 4 in stock. You can go to Southern Edge Knife Works and use my code SDSEK, get 15% off of that. So, all right, now on to the disassembly. Okay, now we are on to the disassembly portion of the Spyderco Watu review. I am going to start adding these to more, at least during when we're all locked up, you know, because you guys seem to like the longer videos during these times. Yes, it is very late April of 2020 when I'm recording this. And this is not the best lighting setup. I apologize. I have a permanent like workstation set up on the other side of my office now. I rearranged some stuff, and it's really nice to have because I don't have to move everything around or dig everything out. You know, I can keep my Viper Sharp set up. It's just off camera here and all that kind of stuff, and it's very nice. But the lighting isn't as perfect over here, and the camera mount's my old mount, so it may jiggle. I apologize for that. But yeah, this will also just give some actual useful information instead of my usual rambling reviews. So it adds some useful information at the end. If you have one of these, or pretty much any Taichung compression lock knife, it's going to be useful to know how to take them apart and put them back together. I have all my stuff laid out. I've got most important thing, my reading glasses, because I'm an old. They're the lowest prescription ones you can get, but I still need them. And it does help out a lot when I'm doing these. I always forget to have them on. Today I was prepared. I've got some white rags. These are just cut up t-shirts. This is a Calvin Klein undershirt, which I actually cut up with the Watu right before this. Yeah, only the best rags that Macy's can buy when there used to be a Macy's. You can buy dedicated rags. I prefer just to cut up old t-shirts because I have a million of them. And iFixit driver, love these. They're really cheap, about 12 bucks. Weeha bits. That came in this metal case. That came in another driver, which is okay, but I like that one better. One of these little watchmaker's tools or jeweler's tools, whatever they're called. I saw Nick Shabazz using one of these in his videos. I thought, oh, I wish I had one of those. I should order one. And then, like, I think it was later that day, I just found one in the bottom of a drawer. It must have come with one of my watches. I don't remember getting it, but I have it now, and it does come in handy. I don't think I'm going to need it here, but it's handy, so I usually keep it out. Knife pivot lube, both flavors. I don't know what, if they probably taste the same. They smell the same, but both weights, the heavy and the regular. And a Loctite stick. And if I need them, I don't think I will. I've taken apart a whole lot of Taichung Spydercos, but extra T6 and T8. These are the Weeha Pico Finish Magic Spring ones. The bits on these aren't quite as good as the replaceable micro bits, so I don't use these ones a whole lot. But if I have to grab something on the other side and I need 2 wrenches, they work good for that. And lastly, I'm going to tape the blade because you guys gave me a hard time the last time I did a disassembly because I didn't tape the blade and how dangerous I was and how I was going to cut myself. Well, I do this all the time. I've only cut myself disassembling a knife once, and that was such a blow. I don't think any masking tape would have stopped me from getting cut. But I'm doing it for your mental health, not for my own safety. That's how much I care about you guys. Doing this for you. Now, before I do that, let's start this over. Oh, I'm not going to start the video. I'm just going to start this taping over. I'm going to show you how this thing actually works first. It's not bad. There's nothing horribly wrong with it. A little tight out of the box. You get that with a lot of Spydercos. Honestly, I probably... Normally, I just would have turned one of these screws or both of them just a little bit, the pivot screws, and it would have been fine. It's a little tight. It still drops really well, as you can see, but you got to give it a little wrist to get it to drop. It doesn't just quite free drop as well. You kind of got to tilt it a bit. Like, you know, I've got some of my other Spydercos, like my my Capara, which is even a CQI one, that'll drop. But also, I'm going to learn something here. I want to see if this has the pivot bushing. I assume that it does because all the CQI ones do, and this came out way post CQI. All the Tai Chung ones do. So, oh, got to tape the blade again. Live television, everybody. This thing with disassembly videos, you got one shot. If you screw it up, it just makes it, or you just don't publish it. That's usually what I do if I screw up. I just don't put it out there. All right, there we go. Tear some of the excess off. There, I'm doing this for your mental health, not for my safety. Okay, now let's get to actually taking this apart. I know this is a T8. Coming right off, definitely no need for 2 there. Yeah, you know, we're gonna try and do the other side. Yeah, it's not going to matter because that pocket clip's going to have to come off because it's in a standoff. We're just going to do this side. If I can leave the pocket clip on, sometimes I try to. Rubber mat, also very important because you see that screw that I just dropped? I can just let them drop and they drop and stay. Instead of, if you're doing it on a harder surface, they go bang, 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 bang across the floor, and then you have to swear and anger your family. Ah, that's a serious pocket clip screw. Is that spinning? No, there it goes. I'm not saying you can let them drop from altitude, but you can a little bit. We're going to put that in that little spot. I like these compartmented ones too, because then I know where all the screws go and which one is which. Yeah, I can see that's a little longer than the pivot screws, so it would be easy to screw those up. Now we'll tackle the T6s. I need a new T6. This one is still perfectly serviceable, but it's not as good as it used to be. Weehawk bits are great, but T6s you're going to go through like crazy, and I'm getting so I only have a couple that are really like usable. I've got a lot of trash ones. Well, I don't anymore. I throw them out so they don't accidentally grab one, and then, you know, strip a screw that didn't need to be stripped. Avoidable errors. If you have a bad bit, just get rid of it. Don't try to make it last longer. First time it starts slipping, just get rid of it. Now, is this going to come apart easily, or am I going to have to pry it with something? Which that will be an issue, because my usual pry bar that I use, I have no idea where I put it. Pry bar meaning I usually use a bicycle tire lever that I have that I actually took my my Dremel and milled down a bit, and then I've promptly lost it. I'll give one more look, and then we're going to do something that I probably shouldn't do, but we're going to have to. I don't like putting metal on metal, but, you know, we'll use the masking tape. Maybe it's going to be useful after all. I'm just going to take this. It's only this flathead screwdriver I have handy right now is this Swiss Army knife. And we're going to put some more of that masking tape on it. Okay, fine. The masking tape's useful, I guess. Still don't care about it helping my fingers. Yeah, just need a little pop. Not much pressure at all. Well, I say that, and now this side is fighting a bit. I think it's because I got that other one moved too much. Put too much pressure on it. Well, come on now. There you go. Now this side's stuck on. Monkeys. Tight tolerances. Sometimes this happens. There we go. That's off now. And not a scratch on it. Awesome. Yeah, they're all D-shaped pivots. That's probably why it was hard to get off of there. Stop pin's falling out. That's fine. We'll put that up there in that little spot. And no. Oh yeah, there it is. It does have the pivot bushing. Cool. I'll put these here. I like to put these on the stuff with the numbers because it makes them easier to pick up, because these washers off of a flat surface, you wind up just pushing it around your finger. I don't have fingernails, so it's really hard to get under. And look, I'm going to use this. Oh, I got to screw it. No, you don't have to screw it off on this one. Cool. Sometimes you have to completely remove the pivot. Don't have to on this. I'm not going to take the pivot out. I don't really feel a need to. This is brand new. I don't need to clean it off that much. It's been used for one day making t-shirt things, or t-shirt rags, and making boxes to ship out knives. Use this side. This, there it goes. That's a nice tight tolerance. It doesn't want to come out. In a good way, though. It's just because it pivots, so you have to go one side, then the other side. There we go. Yeah, these pivot bushings do make a big difference. My Capara does not have them, but neither does my Sage 5, and they are both extremely drop shutty, but I know that for a lot of people that made a big difference in the Capara. They haven't done a CQI Sage 5 yet, so. All right, now let's get to some cleaning. Take all the parts that I want to clean. I do use a lot of rubbing alcohol, so I use a lot of alcohol, I guess you could say. I am Irish and Scottish after all. 'Tis my duty to my country. See, there we go. First camera bang of the video. That's gonna happen. If you guys start liking these, I will invest in another mount like I have on the other side of the room to leave permanently mounted, because that mount is too much of a pain to move around. It's pretty, I mean, you can unscrew it, but it's permanently like angled and set up for that side. Now, I will say sometimes, let me move this back so it's all on camera. Sometimes on Spydercos, if you're just having a really hard time getting the action exactly where you want it, I'll polish these, and that's really nice. It's not hard. You can just use, I just use this little strap block. I'm not going to do this because I'm like reviewing the knife, so this is something that not the average person does. So I like to keep things, you know, kind of like the average user would do when I review stuff. But if you have one that's being a bit gnarly, if any phosphor bronze knife, it's easy just to rub those. Don't have to do much. Just rub them on that little strap block a little bit. It works great. I don't know, see, everything's perfectly clean. I switched back to the white rags. I was using brown, but the brown ones you can't really see if you're getting gunk off or not. And I like to see some sort of visual indication of progress. And my wife bought Q-tips, and I forgot to bring any up here. That would be more useful than this, but you know, we were out of Q-tips for so long, I got used to just doing it this way. And that is what I shall continue to do. You're getting a little bit of schmutz off of there, but man, not much. All evidence I've seen is that the Tai Chung plant is pretty clean for a knife plant. There's almost hardly anything that ever comes off of them. Very glad I wore the reading glasses though, because this is a widow pivot. Oh, sorry, I'm off camera again. I'm not used to these. All right, set that there. And then I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna remove the pivot. Oh, it does just, you know, it doesn't just come out. It's still one you have to unscrew, like most of them are. It did rotate on me though. And just kind of get good. Clean on the inside. Clean on the lock bar interface, or yeah, the liner lock interface there. Ooh, little schmutz on there. All right. Now let's start putting it back together. Just confirm that D goes back this way. Yep. That's what she said. Okay. For those of you who are the volume up. All right. Just put just a tiny bit on here. That's probably way more than I need. No. Washer, you have more on. There we go. Just a, that's way too much, but we're gonna let it slide, literally. I'm going to try putting it back together this way. I usually find that to be slightly easier. It is entirely too much lube on there, but so be it. Okay. And then before I forget, something I always forget, and I'm not doing this on camera at all, I'm being very bad, guys, sorry. And that is way too much of that we're going to remove some of it. There we go. That's the KPL Heavy. Works really well. It's actually what it's designed for, is for detent balls, and it works extremely well. Put that stop pin back in there. The other washer. I know you're probably saying, he keeps saying there's too much lube and he just keeps adding more. Well, because it's in the wrong place. There we go. And now we're ready to go back together. Not too bad at all. Let's see if everything lines up. Holy shnikes, it appears to be. Eureka! Okay, we're going to start out with these T6s. If anything's going to give us problems, it looks like those little D shapes in the back were the least lined up, so we're going to start with those. Yeah, here to pop in there at the last second. There we go. Now switch to the T8. We are almost done here already. Again, on these videos, I will not be, what am I doing? I will not be offended if you skip this part. If you're not the kind of guy who takes your knife part, put the T6 right back in there, you moron. And then, yeah, I'm not offended at all if you skip this part. I don't usually do Loctite on the body screws. As you noticed, I didn't do it there. I've never lost one in my life, but some people do. I didn't clean all the previous Loctite off this one either, which I should have, but here we are. It's really hard to get all of it off of there anyway. You just kind of I just kind of pour alcohol on it and rub on it as much as I can, but on these short little screws, it's really hard to get it off. It's all going back together. We're just going to take a wild ass guess on the how much tension that needs. Oh, I'm gonna need to do this way. This reminds me, what was those toys you had? They had the little balls that you roll around. So always, or the little centrifugal thing. You know, that's what the little. Why did I take the T8 out of there? Because I'm a silly boy. All right, now we're gonna untape the blade and make it dangerous. I feel like there should be like a flashing red light that goes off in here. Wow, wow. Okay, now let's just check it. Yeah, I have that way too tight. And it is off center, so that's pretty centered actually. I'll try to loosen this one out a little bit. This is the one I put on, so that would make sense that this is probably gonna be the one that's loose. I mean, the one that's tight, you know what I mean. Read my mind, don't listen to what I say. Yeah, that's better. That's more like I would expect. This has that, I've already said in the review probably, it's got that same thing where the blade tang goes into the path just a little bit, but there we go. Yeah, that's more like it. That's more like I like it. It's not quite as guillotine-y as my Capara, but it ain't bad. My son just walked in and almost interrupted the whole thing. I'd have been really mad because we're almost done. And we are done. All centered up. No, not quite centered up. We're not quite done. To show you that I can do it. I can do it. be halfway between there. It seems like this one needs to be a little tighter. There we go. And better. It's not dramatically better than it was, but it's pretty darn close. Enough that it will break in very, very quickly and be very, very drop shutty. I'm happy with the way it is, though, honestly. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.